It began like a whisper at the bottom of the ocean, a truth so deep it felt older than the stars. The verse found me there, in the undertow of my own questions, where silence presses against your chest, and the darkness tells you there is no way out. I remember thinking life was just a cycle. Wake up, survive, repeat. Bills stacking like bricks on your back. Smiles you put on just to keep people from asking questions. Conversations where no one is really listening. That dull ache in your chest when you scroll through other people's highlight reels and wonder if you're the only one still stuck in the shadows. You know that feeling. The quiet loneliness even when the room is full. And then the verse came, not like a preacher's thunder or a scholar's lecture. No, it arrived like sunlight through blinds at 6 a.m., slicing straight through the gloom. It didn't just speak to my mind. It called my name. It told me that the enemy was not the world. The enemy was the voice inside that told me I wasn't enough. The one that said my dreams expired before I could reach them. The one that whispered, play small, stay quiet, don't make waves. But here's the truth you need to hear right now. That voice is a liar, and you've been listening to it for too long. You have been told you're too late. You have been told you're too flawed. You have been told your pain makes you weak. But you, yes you, are stronger because of every scar. You are wiser because of every wrong turn. You are here because you have not given up. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of everything you've feared. Behind you, the life you've outgrown. In front of you, the unknown, shimmering with possibility. The verse is in your hand. Its weight is light, but its truth is heavy enough to anchor you when the winds come. It says you are not the mistake you made. You are not the opinion they have of you. You are not the failure you fear is permanent. You are what you choose to believe today, and I choose to believe in you. You can. You will. You must. There is a war for your mind, and neutrality is surrender. Fear will not politely step aside. Lies will not retire quietly. You have to rise. You have to step into the discomfort that tells you you're alive again. And when that small voice hisses that you're still not ready, you can smile. Not because it's right, but because you've already decided it's wrong. So here's the shift. Stop waiting for permission to become who you already are. The verse answered my questions, but it also handed me a sword. The battle is daily. The choice is now. Stand up. Declare it. Step forward. The rest of your life is waiting for the version of you who finally believes. And maybe right now, as you hear these words, you're feeling that familiar pull. That knot in your chest that says something is about to change. It's not just hope, it's recognition. Because deep down, you've always known you were made for more than just enduring life. You've been trained to settle. To silence the questions that burn at night. To nod along when the crowd says, that's just the way it is. But you felt it. The quiet rebellion in your spirit. That whisper that says, no, this isn't all there is. The verse didn't just answer my questions. It exposed the counterfeit answers I'd been living on. The easy half-truth that kept me calm enough to stay in chains. It showed me the cracks in the stories I'd been told since childhood, that worth must be earned, that love is conditional, that failure is final. And if I'm speaking to you now, it's because I know you've been wrestling too. Maybe in secret, maybe in the mirror when no one's watching. Maybe in the way you keep asking, why do I feel empty when I've done everything right? The enemy wants you numb, wants you scrolling through other people's dreams until your own feel foolish. Wants you measuring your value in likes, in paychecks, in the approval of people who don't even know the sound of your real laugh. But the truth, the real, burning, undeniable truth, is this: you are not here to live on autopilot. You are not here to just fit in. You are here to shake the dust, to rise up, to break the patterns that broke the people before you. You can. You will. You must. Imagine it. Stepping into the day with the quiet confidence of someone who finally remembers who they are. Imagine the weight falling off your shoulders when you realize you don't have to prove it. Imagine looking fear in the face and saying, "Thank you for the warning, but I'm walking through anyway." The verse is your permission slip to live awake. It is the crack in the wall where the light comes through. It is the reminder that your story is not over, not even close. So I'm telling you now, as someone who has stood where you stand, don't let the moment pass. Don't let the voice talk you back into the cage. This is your call to break it. Breathe in. Step forward. Live as if you've already been answered, because you have. And here's what I need you to grasp. When the verse found me, it didn't hand me comfort wrapped in silk. It handed me a mirror. And in that mirror, I saw the truth I'd been avoiding. That most of my pain wasn't from what happened to me, but from what I kept telling myself afterward. I saw how I'd been carrying labels I never asked for. Too much. Too little. Not ready. Words spoken in passing that somehow built walls inside my head. I realized I had been bowing to a throne built by lies. Lies so familiar, they started to sound like my own thoughts. And I wonder, how many of those lies have you been living with? How many times have you looked in the mirror and seen someone smaller than the person you truly are? How many opportunities have you let drift by because fear dressed itself up as wisdom? Fear will wear a suit and call itself logic. It will speak with your voice and pretend it's protecting you. But what it's really doing is locking the gate and swallowing the key. The verse told me, plain as day, you will never be free by accident. Freedom is an act of war, and the first battlefield is in your own mind. You can, you will, you must. So here's the war cry. Stop letting the old story dictate the next chapter. Stop letting people who don't even see you write your ending. Stop waiting for a sign that it's safe to begin. The safety you're waiting for is an illusion. Picture yourself years from now, standing in the same place, with the same ache in your chest, wondering why you never moved. Now picture the alternative. You, walking forward, shaky but unchained. You, deciding the cage was never locked. I'm telling you, as someone who has crossed that threshold. Once you step through, the air tastes different. Life feels different. You are no longer a spectator, you are the storm and the verse. It wasn't just words on a page, it was the key. It was the answer. It was the proof that the battle has already been won in the unseen, and now it's your turn to live like it. So take it, speak it, live it, right now, before the old voice tries to pull you back, because this is the moment that everything changes. If you choose it. And maybe you're thinking, it can't be that simple. That's what I thought too. I believed change had to be wrapped in complexity, hidden in rituals, locked behind the approval of people who knew better. But the verse tore through that illusion like lightning through a midnight sky. It said, "You've been holding the door closed with your own hand. All this time, the exit wasn't blocked. It was waiting for you to walk through, and that's when I saw it. How life had trained me to play defense, to protect the little I had instead of reaching for what was mine. I thought I was surviving, but I was just slowly disappearing. You know that feeling, don't you? when you've been saying, "I'm fine," for so long you almost believe it, until the silence of the night tells you otherwise. When you smile in the group photo, but your heart is somewhere else entirely. When you pray, but feel like the ceiling has been nailed shut. That's when the verse speaks louder, not in shouting, but in truth so undeniable it feels like oxygen rushing into your lungs. It reminds you, you are not your worst moment. You are not the sum of other people's failures to see your worth. You are not a shadow in someone else's story. The enemy. It thrives on keeping you too tired to dream, too busy to heal, too distracted to see you've been chained. But the moment you recognize the chain, it starts to weaken, and every step you take toward truth is a blow against the walls that held you. You can. You will. You must. Imagine waking tomorrow and refusing to carry the same weight you've been dragging for years. Imagine looking in the mirror and seeing not your flaws, but your fire. Imagine speaking your own name like it's a promise, not an apology. This is what the verse does. It pulls you out of the fog, turns you toward the horizon, and tells you to walk. And as you walk, you realize you were never walking alone. So I'll tell you what it told me. Stop rehearsing your limitations. Start declaring your destiny. Stop watering the weeds and start planting the seeds. Now is not someday. Now is not when it's easier. Now is the only moment you are guaranteed, and it's in your hands right now. The verse answered my questions, but it also asked me one in return. Now that you know the truth, what will you do with it? And I'm passing that question to you. Because if you hear these words and walk away unchanged, then the chains stay on. And you are not made for chains. The verse showed me that the greatest tragedy isn't falling. It's learning how to live on the floor. Too many have made their home there, decorating their prison, calling it reality. They stopped asking for more because the asking hurt too much. They started shrinking to fit a life that was never their size. And maybe that's you right now, half awake, half alive, waiting for a rescue that's already here. The truth is, the rescue doesn't come from the outside. It comes when you say, enough. When you decide the story changes here, with you. I know the fight. I know the nights you've stared at the ceiling wondering if anything will ever break. I know the exhaustion of smiling when your soul is bleeding. But I also know this. There is a version of you that is unstoppable, unshakable, unafraid. That version is not far away. That version is under the rubble, waiting for you to start digging. Fear will try to bargain with you. It will whisper, tomorrow. It will promise you safety if you stay still, but stillness is the slowest form of death. You can. You will. You must. Picture it your future self, looking back at this exact moment, whispering, thank you for moving. Picture the people you'll inspire because you chose to break free. Picture the day you wake up and realize you haven't felt that heavy shadow in months. That's not fantasy. That's the life you start building the second you stop believing the lies. The verse told me to rise, and not just once, but every single time the world, or my own thoughts, tried to push me under. Rise when it's dark. Rise when it's heavy. Rise when it makes no sense. And now it's telling you the same. So here's your choice. Keep living the script that was handed to you, or pick up the pen and rewrite it. Either way, the clock is still ticking, and I promise you this. The moment you step into truth, the world will never look the same again. And the moment it clicks, really clicks, you'll wonder how you ever lived believing the smaller version of yourself. It's like waking from a dream you thought was reality, only to realize the colors were never that dull. It was just the fog between you and the truth. The verse cut through that fog for me. Not softly, but with the precision of a blade. It stripped away every excuse I'd built, every comfort I'd clung to, every lie I'd married just to avoid the work of change. And here's what it revealed. Your cage doesn't have a lock. Read that again. Your cage doesn't have a lock. The enemy thrives on convincing you the bars are real, that the world outside is hostile, that stepping out will destroy you. But those bars? They're made of thoughts you didn't choose, beliefs you didn't question, fears you didn't challenge. You've been playing small because small feels safe. But safe is where dreams starve. Safe is where purpose goes to sleep. Safe is where the life you were made for waits in vain for you to show up. You can. You will. You must. I want you to imagine yourself at the edge again. Wind in your face, heart pounding. Behind you, the stale air of the life you've known. In front of you, the unknown humming with possibility. You hesitate, and the old voice says, "Go back. You don't belong there." But then another voice rises, the one the verse awakened. It says, "Step. Now." And when you do, the ground under your feet will not crumble like fear promised. It will rise to meet you. And every step after will get stronger, steadier, louder, until the sound of your own footsteps drowns out every voice that ever told you to stay still. The verse didn't just answer my questions. It ignited my war. It reminded me that truth is not passive. Truth demands movement. Truth is a sword, not a lullaby. So hear me, this is your moment. The chains you feel are illusions. The waiting game you've been playing is over. The permission you've been seeking is already signed in the ink of your existence. Step out. Speak loud. Live awake. The world is waiting for the you that finally believes. And when you finally step into that belief, you'll notice something strange. The world doesn't change first. You do. The people who once dismissed you will tilt their heads, trying to figure out what shifted. The same problems that used to break you will still show up. But this time, they won't own you. It's not that the storm stops. It's that you learn how to walk through it without drowning. That's what the verse did for me. It didn't erase the battle. It equipped me for it. It put a sword in my hand and fire in my chest. It made me see that my greatest enemy was never out there. It was the quiet surrender in here. You've been told life is about avoiding pain, about keeping things predictable, about staying in line so you don't make enemies. But the verse whispers a different law. Pain can build you. Discomfort can crown you. And stepping out of line is the only way to find your place. You can. You will. You must. Think about it. You've already survived the days you thought would break you. You've already carried weights you swore were too heavy. So why not believe you're stronger than you've been told? Picture yourself standing on the shore of everything you've feared, watching the waves crash, realizing you're not here to avoid the water. You're here to walk into it. And as you take that first step, you feel the grip of the old life loosen. The verse told me that faith isn't waiting for a clear path. It's stepping, even when the ground looks invisible. And that's the dare I'm putting in your hands right now. No more circling the same mountain. No more calling the cage home. No more mistaking stillness for peace. Rise, move, speak, act, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now, because when the verse answered my questions, it also made me realize every delay was costing me pieces of the life I was meant to live, and I won't pay that price anymore. Neither should you. And here's the thing no one tells you. Once you cross that line, there is no going back. Not because you can't, but because you won't fit in that old skin anymore. The verse awakens something that can't be unawakened. It's like tasting water after a lifetime of thirst. You'll never again pretend sand can satisfy you. I remember the exact moment it hit me. I was standing in the same place, looking at the same life, but it all felt different. The heaviness I'd worn like armor suddenly felt optional. The labels I'd accepted no longer stuck. I wasn't just in the fight. I was the fight. And maybe you felt the flicker of that before. That split second where your spirit stands up inside you and says, "This isn't over." You brush it off, telling yourself you'll get to it later. But later is a liar. Later is where dreams go to die. The verse didn't give me a gentle nudge. It gave me a summons. It called me to war against fear, against compromise, against the silent agreements I'd made with my own limitations. You can. You will. You must. I need you to hear me. There is nothing noble about shrinking so others can stay comfortable. There is nothing holy about burying the gifts God planted in you. There is nothing safe about living half a life. Picture yourself 5 years from now. Will you thank yourself for waiting, or will you wish you had started the second you heard this? The verse is not just a comfort, it's a command. It's telling you to rise now, while the fire is still hot, before the excuses cool it into ashes. So let this be the moment you stop circling the truth and step into it. Let this be the moment you become dangerous to the lies that have held you. Because once you know who you are, fear loses its grip. And once you step into your calling, the world will have no choice but to make room. This is your crossing, and on the other side, life waits. And the crossing, it isn't quiet. It's not neat. It's not the clean, pretty breakthrough the movies sell you. No. When you step through, it's messy. Old voices will scream. Familiar fears will claw at your ankles. People who once smiled at you will suddenly question you. Because change confronts everything that benefited from your silence. The verse prepared me for that. It told me, expect resistance. Not because you're wrong, but because you're finally right, and truth always disrupts the comfort of lies. I learned quickly the moment you rise, the old life will try to negotiate your return. It will offer you safety, familiarity, even praise, as long as you shrink again. But that's when you remember, the cage was never safety, it was slow death. You can. You will. You must. This is the part where the fight gets real. Not in the comfort of your thoughts, but in the choices you make every day. When fear tells you to stall, you move. When doubt whispers, you're not ready, you go anyway. When people call you reckless, you smile, because you know it's not recklessness, it's resurrection. Picture it, walking into a room you used to feel small in, and realizing nothing in the room has changed. But you have. Shoulders back, eyes steady. No apologies in your voice, because you're not begging to belong anymore. You're bringing your own table. That's what the verse did. It shifted me from waiting to creating, from questioning to declaring. And every day since, I've been reminded the enemy can't take back what I've claimed, but I can still surrender it if I get tired. So I don't get tired. I rest, then I rise again. And now I'm looking at you. Yes, you. The one who's been carrying the quiet ache. The one who feels the pull even now. Stop treating your calling like a hobby. Stop treating your freedom like an option. This is the moment the old life dies and the new one begins. Step through. Now. And when you step through, you'll notice something strange. The world won't roll out a red carpet. There will be no grand announcement. But deep in your spirit, you'll hear it. That quiet click, like a lock turning from the inside. That's when you know. You're not who you were anymore. The verse didn't just tell me I could change. It told me I already had the authority to. That I wasn't waiting on heaven's approval. It was already stamped on my soul before I took my first breath. And I need you to hear this. You've been walking with that same authority your whole life, but you've been told to keep it under wraps. Told to dim it down. Told to wait your turn. But there is no line for your destiny. It's been calling your name the entire time. You can, you will, you must. Yes, there will be days when you feel the pull of the old life. Days when you're tempted to slip back into habits that feel like home, but smell like a tomb. But that's when you remind yourself, you're not just leaving something behind, you're moving towards something greater. Picture this, a field stretching out in front of you, wide and unbroken. No fences, no limits. Every step you take, the air feels cleaner, every breath fuller. And then it hits you. This is what it's like to live unchained. The verse didn't answer me with a gentle lullaby. It answered me with marching orders. It told me to stop standing in the doorway, half in, half out. It told me to burn the ships, so there's no way back even if I get scared. And maybe this is your burn, the ship's moment. Maybe these words are the push you've been praying for, the sign you've been asking to see. No more waiting. No more stalling. No more apologizing for the fire in your chest. Step into the life that's been waiting for the real you to arrive. Because once you cross, you'll never go back. And you'll never want to. And when you realize you'll never want to go back, that's when you understand. The old life wasn't safety, it was sedation. It kept you numb enough to survive, but never awake enough to live. The verse tore that numbness out of me. It didn't just hand me truth. It lit a torch and told me to walk into places I'd been avoiding for years. It told me that the darkness I feared wasn't my enemy. It was simply the territory I was called to bring light into, and that changed everything. I stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started asking, what is this shaping in me? I stopped waiting for the storm to pass and started learning how to dance in the rain. I stopped begging for permission to speak and realized my voice was my permission. You can, you will, you must, listen. Fear will tell you that you need more time. Doubt will tell you to collect more proof. But if you wait until you feel ready, you'll be waiting forever. Readiness is a lie designed to keep you still. Picture yourself standing at the cliff's edge, the wind whipping at your face. Behind you, everything you've outgrown. In front of you, everything you've been called to. You close your eyes, your heart pounds. You step, and instead of falling, you fly. That's what stepping into truth feels like. That's what obedience to the call sounds like. That's what the verse awakened in me. It wasn't just an answer. It was an invitation. An invitation to live unafraid, to walk unshaken, to breathe like someone who knows they are free. And now it's your invitation too. So stop scanning the horizon for a sign. This is the sign. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. This is the moment. Step forward. Don't look back. The you that's waiting on the other side is worth everything it takes to get there. And once you meet that version of yourself on the other side, you'll wonder why you ever hesitated. They'll look like you, but taller in spirit. They'll speak like you, but with a voice that doesn't tremble. They'll carry your scars, but wear them like medals instead of wounds. That's when you'll understand. Every battle was training. Every delay was sharpening your edge. Every unanswered question was pushing you closer to the one answer that changes everything. The verse didn't give me comfort food for the soul. It gave me a key, and that key didn't open some gilded palace in the clouds. It opened the cell door I'd been sitting in for years, thinking it was locked. You can. You will. You must. But here's the catch. Once you step out, you can't go back to pretending you don't know the truth. You can't unsee the open sky. You can't unhear the call, and that's good, because the world doesn't need you small, silent, and waiting. The world needs you lit up, alive, and in motion. Picture it walking into a room and not asking, "Do I belong here?" Because you carry the quiet knowing. You are the room. Picture waking up tomorrow with your shoulders squared, not because life is easy, but because you've decided it won't break you. The verse answered my questions, but it also exposed my excuses. It showed me that every "I can't" was really "I won't." And the second I owned that, I took back my power, and now you're standing where I once stood. The choice is yours, and the clock is ticking. So hear me, and hear me clear. This is not the time to whisper your dreams. This is the time to declare them. This is not the season to keep peace with fear. This is the season to make fear keep peace with you. Step forward, burn the old map. Live like the answer has already been given, because it has. And when you live like the answer has already been given, something shifts in the way you walk. You stop chasing validation like a thirsty wanderer chasing mirages. You stop asking the crowd for permission to be who you were born to be. You start moving with a certainty that rattles the cages of those still sleeping. The verse did that for me. It didn't speak in riddles. It spoke like thunder. It didn't suggest. It commanded. It didn't hand me comfort. It handed me a sword and said, "Use it." And that sword was truth. Truth that I wasn't behind. I was right on time. Truth that I wasn't broken beyond repair. I was being reforged in the fire. Truth that the enemy's greatest weapon wasn't my failure. It was convincing me to stop trying. You can. You will. You must. So I stopped making peace with the limitations I'd inherited. I stopped bowing to the fears I'd fed for years, and with every step into the unknown, I felt the old chains loosen. Not because they were cut, but because they were never real in the first place. Picture this, you, standing in the open field of your calling, breathing air so fresh it feels like the first time you've ever really breathed. No walls, no ceilings, just space. And in that space, you realize the thing you were looking for was never a destination. It was you, awake, alive, and unafraid. The verse wasn't just my answer. It was my awakening. It told me, you are not waiting on the world. The world is waiting on you. And maybe right now, it's telling you the same. So hear me. Don't settle for survival. Don't decorate your cage. Don't trade your roar for a whisper just because it keeps the peace. Step into the light. Walk like the ground belongs to you. Speak like your words can shake mountains, because they can. This is the moment your story changes. Not tomorrow, not when it's easy. Now, and when now becomes your decision, you'll feel it in your bones. A heat, a hum, a sudden clarity that the waiting game is over. You stop looking at the calendar for a better day. You stop rehearsing reasons to delay. You realize the only thing standing between you and the life you were meant to live is the choice to step. The verse didn't give me a polite invitation. It gave me a summons. It pulled me out of my excuses, stripped away the illusions I had made comfortable, and told me to stand up. And when I did, I saw it. How much of my life had been ruled by shadows that weren't even real. You can. You will. You must. Those shadows had names: fear, doubt, shame, comparison. They told me I was too late, too flawed, too small to make a dent. but the verse burned through them like morning light through mist. It reminded me that my scars were proof of survival, not signals to hide. And maybe right now you're still tangled in those same shadows. Maybe you've been measuring yourself against everyone else's highlight reels. Maybe you've been talking yourself out of dreams that won't leave you alone. But hear me. You don't need the crowd to agree before you move. You don't need the fear to disappear before you start. You don't need the path to be clear before you take the first step. Picture yourself standing at the line between the life you know and the life you long for. Your heart is pounding, your knees are shaking, but you step anyway. And when you do, you realize that the step didn't break you. It built you. That's the truth the verse gave me. That courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move while fear is still in the room. And once you taste that freedom, you'll never go back to living small. Not because you can't, but because you finally know you were never meant to. And once you know you were never meant to live small, you start seeing it everywhere. In the conversations where people hide behind polite lies, in the tired eyes of those who gave up on their fire years ago, in your own reflection, remembering the days you nearly did the same. The verse made me see that the greatest prison is not made of stone or steel. It's built from unchallenged thoughts. The enemy doesn't have to chain your hands if he's already chained your mind. I had been carrying those chains for years, calling them wisdom, calling them reality, even calling them humility. But they weren't humility, they were fear in disguise, fear dressed up like reason, fear whispering, play small, it's safer that way. You can, you will, you must. So I broke the agreement. The silent contract I'd signed with comfort, with mediocrity, with playing dead while I was still breathing. And in breaking it, I realized freedom is not something given, it's something claimed. Picture this, the door to your cage is standing wide open. No guards, no locks, no barriers. But you're still sitting inside because you've been told for so long that you can't leave. Now imagine standing up, walking through that doorway, and feeling the sunlight hit your face for the first time in years. That's what the verse did for me. It shoved the door open and said, walk. And maybe right now, that's exactly what it's saying to you. Maybe it's telling you that the pain you've been through is not a disqualifier. It's your preparation. Maybe it's telling you that the waiting is over. Because the truth is, every day you spend hesitating is another day the enemy wins without lifting a finger. And you were not put here to hand over your life without a fight. Step forward. Claim it. Live like you've already been answered. Because you have.